Oh, that was a little bit of a lethargic clap.
I know. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are recording on a Thursday evening.
Post-dinner. Or is it post-dinner for you?
Yeah. We had some lovely, fried halloumi with honey and chili, and then some poached pears and potatoes and a salad. It was delightful.
You had pears in the salad.
Oh yeah.
I've got garlic croutons stuck in my teeth. Lil made them. We had a couple of bits left of that pandemi.
Yes, that looked so good.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun in, what are they called? A Pullman tin, when it has a lid and it creates a square like a sandwich loaf.
Yes, exactly like something that comes out of the Charlie Wood process,
yeah.
but not.
Yes, exactly. Thanks for introducing the Charlie Wood process into midlifing. It's amazing that it's escaped it.
I was going to say, the fact that we have not talked about the mechanization of bread making in the
1950s?
Yeah, I think it was the 1950s. That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so exactly. It's but this was like a brioche light, so a little bit enriched, and then so we had some left over, and she made garlic croutons. And what is it? Yes, they were. And what is it about teeth and things getting stuck in them as you get older?
Do you think it's that it only happens when you get older, or do you think you only notice or care because your teeth are slowly on the way out?
I thought it was that, that more or less that your gums are getting a little looser, and so that the spaces between your teeth increase. You end up getting more food stuck between your teeth. Yeah, I got to the point in my life where I had to travel everywhere with floss.
That's good for dental health.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. It was just to stop that situation where you worry something in your mouth for so long that you end up with an ulcer on the end of your tongue.
Bob has a water pick.
A water pick?
Yeah, it's one of those it's like a bidet for your mouth. It's the only way I can think of it.
Is it portable?
Yes, it is. It is portable.
And does it sit next to your toilet?
No, it sits next to the sink.
Can you describe it to me and our listeners?
Well, it's like a big electric toothbrush with a water reservoir, and instead of having a brush, it has a little tube, and you put it in your mouth, and it squirts the contents of the reservoir into your mouth at pressure, and effectively hose pipes the inside of your mouth.
I'm flabbergasted. And
it's a very good thing to have.
But is it instead of flossing?
No, I would suggest it was part of an overall dental hygiene routine. It's really good. You know those mornings where you have your breakfast and then you almost immediately have to leave the house? And you find that quite a lot of your toothbrush is just sloughing big chunks of toast out of your mouth. And I don't know if you are like me, but you find the whole process disappointing that you're wasting so much food, and also slightly abject that was inside your mouth.
I think it is both disappointing and abject. I think those are excellent adjectives.
This removes those sensations.
Particles.
Well, it removes the particles, but it also removes the sensations because you just blast everything out.
But I was taught to swish and swallow.
Okay, you're going to have to give me more than that. This is a podcast in which two friends have serious conversations about silly things and silly conversations about serious things.
I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller.
Welcome to Midlifing. I remember, you'll remember, you never met her, but Lil and I used to have a little dog called Frida.
Yes.
She was what was she? A terrier, fox terrier, toy poodle cross.
Yes, she was poodle adjacent, I think, of her.
She was very poodle adjacent. She thought herself as being more than adjacent, though. She had tickets on herself for sure. And she used to have a little finger toothbrush, little thing that you put on your finger. And she had a chicken-flavoured toothbrush.
Nice.
Isn't that lovely?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did she enjoy having her teeth cleaned?
She loved it. She loved it. She just well, in the sense she just loved just licking her teeth afterwards, like you.
This is the same dog who who had a pan of meat juices poured on her by accident, and she thought that she was in heaven as she had this beef juice shower. If I remember the story,
that is exactly right. She was Lil's mum Mari was cutting some meat and had it must have been the chopping board was sort of over the edge of the counter, and it started dripping, and so. Frida just sat under there. It was being rained on by beef juice and just licking. It's amazing the places that she could get her tongue to on her head. But then she came out into the lounge with a slightly crazed haircut, sort of blood-streaked haircut, looking like she was in heaven.
Oh, that's to be so happy at a little bit of beef dripping. What a way to live in the world.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So you okay? Are you okay?
Annie, am I okay?
Are you okay, Annie?
I'm okay, Annie. Yes, it's been a tiring week and it's still only Thursday. There's been a lot of travelling backwards and forwards
you've got
to
more.
the north of England for various reasons. And I have more to do tomorrow, so I'm away from home on Friday and Saturday, which is...
So you're having to work on a Saturday?
I am not going to begrudge this because I have only been physically present at my place of work on 3 days since February.
Yeah. And is there an open day or something, is there?
Exactly that, yes.
And what do you do in the drive up there?
I mirror, signal, manoeuvre. I focus on cars behind me.
But do you listen to music or listen to podcasts? Or do you listen to
through...
our entire back catalogue?
Tomorrow I will be listening to the raw files of this recording so I can start to divine a shape from what we say.
Oh, I love that word divine in that context. You're a divinator. Is that the right word?
I am. I will be getting out my my willow wands and trying to work out where the water or gold is in the cellar of our conversating. I will listen to that. I will also listen to podcasts. I will probably listen to podcasts that I've been putting off. So, things like, no offence, Guardian today, but the things that are more news-focused that I find quite a slog sometimes because the world can be a bit difficult when it's apportioned in those kinds of narrative chunks.
So not your zombie podcasts.
No, I won't be listening to zombie podcasts tomorrow. I will be listening to some music at some point. There's a new mix from Branco, who did a set at Stufa Fria in Lisbon the other day, and I'll be listening to that.
Beautiful.
That'll be fun. Really, if you've not come across Branco's work, it's very lovely.
Yes, there'll be a link in the show notes. There has been a link in the show notes previously.
Well, that's because I really like him.
Yes.
He's got a Dalmatian.
Really?
He has. He's got a Dalmatian.
Have you sent him a message on Instagram?
We have had a brief backwards and forwards on Instagram.
Have you? Was that Dalmatian related?
It was Dalmatian related. We have a friend in common. Kind of. He lives in a part of town where a friend of mine lives, and my friend, Mariana, also has a Dalmatian, and so the two of them bump into one another and occasionally find themselves going on Dalmatian dates that are unplanned, but their two dogs decide, now is a good time for us to hang out. So they are in the enforced Dalmatian club, which I don't know if other dogs do this, because I've never lived with other dogs as an adult, but Dalmatians, when they encounter one another on walks, are quite firm that they have to spend some time with one another.
I think poodles are pretty similar.
Really, if they see another poodle,
I do think
time.
I don't know whether it was a bit of confirmation bias on my part, though. I certainly do remember that Frida used to behave particularly friskily towards other poodles.
Yeah, Jeff will do. Well, in fact, they all four of them across their lives have always done the Dally dance when they meet.
Oh, I love that.
Head down, bum in the air, wiggle, jump, run around, smack into each other. And they do it with any Dalmatian that they find. It's very rare, in my experience of living with them, that I've found a Dalmatian who has not liked another Dalmatian.
Right.
Whereas
So it's quite a
normal.
club. The Dalmatian club is quite a strong club.
Well, the dogs consider themselves to be part of, this big happy family, which means that you can find yourself in quite awkward conversations with people with whom you have nothing in common, except you're also covered in little white hairs like they are.
And probably black hairs as well. You just can't see them.
You just can't see them. You don't care about those.
And so I guess because Jeff hasn't ever travelled to this faraway place called Lisbon, but he hasn't yet been able to join that local, I was going to say clan, but that's not quite the right word. Chapter, the local chapter
of the Dalmatians, Hell's Dalmatians. No, Hell's Pups. Hell's a poppin'. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, he hasn't. He was supposed to spend all of Easter 2020 into the summer of 2020 in Lisbon.
Oh, and we know what happened there.
Yeah, because I was supposed to be there for about 6 months, and me and him were going to hang out together.
That's right, because you were still pre-job.
I was delightfully unemployed. You're still sicky-pooly.
Still got
Pooley
just the dregs. I mean, it never is there a more appropriate use of the word dregs, really?
Yeah, then what comes out of your lung after a while? Oh, Lord have mercy.
Me.
Tell me,
hey,
did you salt your neti pot?
I did.
Thank the
I
Lord.
salted
Was it
it.
less scratchy?
But you know what I didn't do was I didn't boil the water, and then I read a terrifying article.
Oh,
which was
about the brainworm?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me that last time? You didn't mention the whole, dead from neti pots within months.
Every instance of that has been in the US. It hasn't happened anywhere else.
Yeah, I don't want to be the first.
I think I'm going to say that the kind of water-based parasite that would eat your brain from the inside out, the only way to eat a brain, in my opinion, is from the inside out.
Yes.
Probably doesn't live in water
in barns.
Your part of London.
It's the word probably, which is curious to me in this case.
Have you had any headaches?
No, I've been,
fine.
I've been very mindful of them, alert to the possibility of any sort of sound of chomping from the inside, or feeling like my brain's leaking. I mean, I was back at work today. I've just finished my little holiday, and I was back at work this morning, and I did feel a little bit lethargic. Well, I don't think it's related. I don't think it's related at all. Hey, I was going to ask you something actually. What does I think we might have had a conversation about this many moons ago.
Did we record it?
No.
Okay.
Way before
Okay.
You had the foolish idea of recording conversations between us. And when I say the word hobby, what comes to mind?
Oh. My entire life, my entire academic career, all of these things feel like hobbies.
Something that is a hobby then. What makes it a hobby? It means that you haven't gone deep?
I guess it's part of that thing that we have talked about before, the sense of being an imposter.
Because a hobbyist, in no way is a hobbyist someone who's necessarily scraping around at the edges. You can be an extremely skilled and experienced and sophisticated hobbyist, right?
Oh, absolutely. And yet the professionals will tend to sneer at the hobbyist.
You mean of the same thing?
I think there's a correlation, particularly in the English language, between hobbyist and amateur.
Yes, I think there is. Yeah.
And I think there is a tendency to assume that the hobbyist is amateur and that the professional is not. And therefore there is an unhelpful and unhealthy schism that opens up. And I think professionals tend to have tickets on themselves. But Charles Darwin was effectively a hobbyist. He wasn't a professional.
Yeah.
He just happened to be a man of independent means who was able to find things out.
It's just because I read this thing recently, and it's slightly obnoxious, but it got my attention, and it says, do what people are willing to pay for. Now, what is not implying that you should be ruled by money, this person, but that money is some kind of neutral indicator of value, which is different, clearly, and they say this guy says this, that it's very different from hobbies, which is a situation where
It tends to cost you money.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to be paid for, when I started to learn how to scuba dive, that was a hobby. And in fact, I remember a colleague at work, I said, oh, yes, I've actually got a scuba diving lesson or whatever it was, I'm doing this course. And she said, you've got a hobby? Her incredulity at this idea that an academic might have a hobby like that was, it made me realize, or it made me think that perhaps my entire career as a choreographer was really as a hobbyist.
It's really interesting you should say that, because Bob and I gave a paper in 2012 entitled The Hobbyist, exactly about this question of the tension between the professional practitioner working in higher education and the academic working in higher education with a practice.
Can you just make that clear, the distinction between the professional and the academic? You mean a professional artist?
Okay, so to talk about the guy that you just read that you thought was quite obnoxious, this idea of money as a
neutral indicator.
A neutral
of value.
indicator, yeah.
By aiming to make money, you're aiming to be valuable.
Yes,
fiscally valuable, obviously.
I wonder if this is part of the sort of the conversation around this idea of the side hustle. Are you familiar with the concept of the side hustle?
I am very familiar with it.
So we're all supposed to now have a side hustle.
This is midlifing. This is our guilty secret, isn't it? It's a side hustle.
Well, yes, except it isn't really, because a side hustle is something that you monetize.
Yeah, but we're just waiting to push the button.
Absolutely. The moment that...
the moment we have dozens of listeners as opposed to tens. The
moment that Warby Parker gets in touch and says, please sell our glasses frames, we'll be there.
Yep.
Along with the...
Squarespace.
And the mattress guys.
Yep. The mattress guys. If you're listening. Hey, I just got to take my jumper off. Hang on.
Okay. Well, I'll just say that that I'm in somewhat...
I can't hear you, just in case.
That's okay, that's fine. I am still talking. But I'm being somewhat derisive about the mattress guys when I call them mattress guys, because I've already said I'm not a big fan of the word guy.
Yes, mattress pals. Mattress mates. Mattress folks, I like that.
I like mattress mates.
Yeah.
But that idea of the side hustle. I think has done something quite interesting. Okay, I don't want to be lazy about... I'll just leave that hanging.
You do, though, don't you? Like, deep down. In fact, not even deep down. You really want to be lazy.
I know. It's. I'm going to bed soon.
I was going to shoulder arms that one and let it fly straight through to the keeper, but I couldn't. I had to lay bat on ball, and I heard the thwack of that. Yes.
I don't know what you're saying because you're doing sports metaphors. So
shouldering arms. How's that for a crazy term?
I don't know what it means. It sounds a bit
military.
That's the one I was trying to say.
Cricket.
I was going to say fighty.
It's cricket.
It's cricket.
Yeah.
You talked about cricket, but I cut it out last week.
Yeah, you'll probably cut this out too, so I'm not going to bother saying anything else about it.
I said that I didn't want to be lazy, but we know that I do. But
yeah.
I think I wonder...
Hang on. Lil? Oh, I thought Lil was scratching at the door, trying to get in, but... That sounds wrong, doesn't it?
It does. Has she been sat underneath a plate of beef? Does she need you to come?
For 6 months.
Oh my God! No, I wasn't thinking. I was thinking that she'd had a beef accident with Mari in the kitchen. You're saying that you kept it in a cupboard. That's worse.
She just came out to make garlic croutons out of leftover pain de mie.
And then straight back in the cupboard. Hey, we all respond to the pandemic in our own way. So, as we know, we are Gen Xers, and I'm not going to be lazy about millennials or Gen Zers,
Zoomers,
or Zillennials. But just thinking about the way I hear younger academics talk about the stuff they do, and they talk about it with such confidence and brio, and I've never been able to find that confidence to be able to talk about my practice in the way that some other people, some people who are younger than me, talk about their practice, and I'm completely in awe of the way that they are able to do that. But I do wonder if there is something about that side hustle that professionalizing, the language of professionalization that sort of sits differently in different bodies, and there's been a sort of a new training that maybe I missed out on, and maybe you missed out on.
They've learned the way to speak about something.
Yeah,
this is quite abstract, isn't it? This conversation in a way, because
it is a bit. But to kind of circle back to the question that you asked me to make a definition between the professional practitioner working in the academy and the academic working with a professional practice.
Yeah,
and it's effectively it's one of self-identification, isn't it?
Tell me.
If both of them are working in higher education, they're both doing the same job.
Yes.
The route that they got into it might be different, but at the point at which they are both being paid by an institution to do a job, you can't say that, oh, well, I'm a professional practitioner. It's like, no, you're not. You're an academic working in a university and you teach people. Calm down.
Yes, but it's curious because if I take this idea that, so for example, well before I entered the academy, I was making choreographies, but all of those choreographies, every single one of them, even the ones where I wasn't publicly funded, did not make money, right? There was no way they got close to breaking even. So I either took a loss myself or the government took a loss on my behalf. Because it was, right? And so I guess I'm thinking that it's a curious way to make an existence, and quite an entitled way to make an existence. I'm talking about before I did as you said, which is to be a professional who then enters the academy, like a professional artist. Because I guess I'm saying, I think I was a hobbyist. I think I still am a hobbyist. Although curiously, I'm probably less of a hobbyist now because I've found someone, meaning the academy, who's prepared to pay me for what I do. And I just think that's a weird thing. But I don't know. When I heard you say that, I just sort of worried that there's, if you talk about professionalization of anything, if we take this out of the academy, when someone's learned how to, as we say, play the game, like I sort of feel like there's kind of bluster about that. Like there's a certain amount of, if you scratch at the surface, so, I used to joke with younger choreographers, say, who are really, their focus was on getting a website. And I always think, well, what's the point of a website if you haven't really done anything? But that was like one of the steps. It was like the steps to professionalism, to being a professional, was to have that kind of branded presence online, or a business card. In my day, it was a business card.
Listening to you talk and trying to square the circle about questions of hobby. Because I launched in when you asked me what I thought of, and I said everything I've ever done.
That's right. You didn't miss a beat either.
No, because it's true. I don't know that I've ever referred to myself as a yoga teacher, as in that is how I have defined myself. I don't think I have said I am a yoga teacher, because it's not been my primary income. But for 4.5 years, I taught 3 classes a week on top of my full-time job. Partly because at the same time Bob was retraining to be an acupuncturist, so she was away a lot, so I was lonely, and I found teaching yoga a nice way to fill the time.
Be with people too.
Yeah, exactly. Be with people. I trained to be a yoga teacher because I became, let's say, obsessed. I think that's probably a fair enough word to use.
Yeah. I think that's probably accurate.
Yeah. I became obsessed with yoga, and I had a realization that everything that I understood because I taught it to other people. And so in that moment of realization, I was like, oh, so maybe I'll understand yoga more if I teach yoga, because it will force me to explain it to other people in a way that is, has more clarity. And so that was the process of learning to be a yoga teacher. It wasn't with any intention of then going on to teach. And the person who taught me how to be a yoga teacher, who is almost certainly listening to this conversation, hi, Michael.
Hi, Michael.
He set me the task of going and teaching a class. So I'd done.
How do you mean? This is the first class?
No. We'd been.
Oh, it was a part of.
Part of my training.
Yeah.
It was like I would shadow him. I worked with him in class, and then occasionally I would teach his classes, and he would stand at the back and just sort of shake his head when I was getting something egregiously wrong.
You mean shake his head, going, no, don't say that. Like
just
Eddie,
yeah,
Eddie.
it was much more gentle than that. It was like, maybe just rethink the way you're articulating it, but all done very, very subtly.
On the go.
On the go.
He was giving you feedback
Yeah.
during a yoga class.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's okay for
Absolutely.
Michael to give you feedback.
Yes, because oh shit. Only about yoga though. He's not allowed to start sending emails in and telling me how to do a podcast.
Michael, info@midlifing.net. Can't wait to hear what you think of Lee's editing. Or just anything about Lee, frankly.
No, it's all right, Jez. So then at the I think I probably spent a couple of years learning with him. And then he said, okay, now you're going to go and teach some open classes. And he sent me to a yoga studio that had just opened up in Plymouth and said, this woman's looking for a yoga teacher and you're going to go and teach there. And he said it with such clarity and such certainty that I turned up at what I now know was an interview without any sense that I was being interviewed. Because Michael had told me that the next thing I was going to do was teach a yoga class. So I said to Joe, who owned the studio, I can work this day and this day. I'll do it in this way. And she was, bless her, really generous and went, okay, that works for me too. But it hadn't even occurred to me that that's what was happening because I was so removed from the idea that I was being a yoga teacher. If that makes any sort of sense. I was only about the next job that I was being given as part of my training.
Sure, you weren't. You were really deep in process, basically.
Absolutely. So it didn't occur to me that this was a woman who was trying to build a business. It didn't occur to me any of those things. I just knew that I had been told I had to do this thing, and I was going to do that thing.
But it wasn't a side hustle for you, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was absolutely a hobby.
Yep. You know, maybe this is another example as we're talking here, which is we joke about it a lot, right? In fact, we joke about it, and we also joke about it seriously, which is the point at which we can, is to make this a really huge podcast, and so that we can give up our day jobs, and we joke about it. But would we say no? And then also we've also joked about it at the point where we're saying to people who listen, bless you, don't tell anyone else about it. Let's just keep it between us. And because I experience this precisely in the same way, which is this is a hobby, and there's tremendous pleasure in this hobby and finding out what it is and getting better at it with the help of feedback from everyone, of course, and investing time and energy and a little bit of money in this thing, and I couldn't want anything else.
I was watching a video all about anal douching yesterday.
Was that for work or pleasure?
No, it was.
Or was it just a hobby?
It was a hobby. I was finding out all about anal douching.
Really?
And, and there was
Is there for a reason, or is it not? It doesn't need a reason.
Does one need a reason to find out?
Curiosity.
I'll tell you what it was. Okay, it was connected to a hobby. I think it's a hobby.
Wait. I just need to guess the hobby.
Go ahead, because if you guess the hobby from me watching a video,
you were watching a video about anal douching, and that's
so
related to a hobby of yours.
No. I didn't say it was related to a hobby. I said
it is the
hobby. Fact I was I said the fact that I was watching the video was as a result of the hobby.
Oh, so you mean it was algorithmically? It algorithmically appeared.
That is what happened. It algorithmically appeared.
You were looking up netty thinging.
It would be great if I was. No, I'd been looking up. Upholstery techniques.
How many degrees of separation are there between upholstery techniques and
no idea. And
anal douching?
I don't know, but I was watching a video on how to do a blanket stitch.
Of course. Oh, it all makes sense.
And then a video on douching came up, and it was fascinating.